welcome to a reading vlog for Iron Flame, which I'm currently reading. It's probably very chaotic also to start a vlog when you're halfway through a book, and yet here I am because there is a pivotal scene happening right now, plus a few other things along the way that I want to talk about because I have thoughts, I have predictions, and I didn't know I was going to make this vlog or I would have started a lot earlier. I will say that I'm very surprised by the tenacity of this book so far. I'm loving Violet's character journey, and that even though for a book to work you kind of have to build that tension between the main two romance focused characters, so Violet and Xaden, I thought they would be telling themselves more untruths in order to bury their feelings, but the reason that they're parted are actually quite viable. Like, Xaden's got responsibilities to the military because there is a pending war happening and he's helping the rebellion, but then Violet also feels like she can't trust him because he obviously doesn't have a lot of clearance to share a lot of information. So she's kind of holding herself back because she knows that she won't get all of him. And I really like that actually. It's quite varied and intricate in the way that the interplay between the characters is working, and it's really working for me. I'm quite enjoying it. But I also have some characters that I very much dislike, and one of them is Varish. I did love when he got his ass handed to him by Violet's dragon. Him attacking, I think, Solace, who is Varish's dragon. Top tier, drew blood, asserted dominance. Obviously now Varish has an extra huge target on Violet's back, and he's working with people that we've only just realized are a problem, like Nolan. So I just got up to the part where Violet and her friends robbed the archives and stole the two journals. She sent one off with Xaden because he will escape before they do sweeps for security so he can slip things past them. Violet thinks she's clear, but she's carrying a white satchel for the scribe sector, and so she gets caught up by Varish, who is always looking for a reason to pull her up, and he catches her out through Nolan, who is the healer that's been helping Violet since she was a kid with her chronic illness and mending her injuries and her joints and everything. And so she has this trust for Nolan, and when Nolan offers her a drink, she takes it, and it's like the classic don't drink that thing because you think it's safe and it's actually poisoned. And sure enough, Nolan is like colon for a reason. She ends up passing out, disconnected from Tan, her dragon, and now she's being tortured by Varish in this chamber, and she's on her 5th day of being tortured. And I would like to point out that she is being tortured to the point where she is hallucinating, and she's seeing Liam, one of her close friends and her guardian, who was in book 1 and got killed off, and he died in her arms. She's hallucinating him and having a full conversation with him, but at a certain point the hallucination of Liam gets angry at Jack Barlow, because in the previous book he was the nemesis at the college, but Violet crushed him and killed him with a mountain, as you do, and now he's been resurrected and he's walking around like everything's normal again, except it feels like he's turned a new leaf because when Violet was recently attempted at assassination, he's the one who pulled her back over the tower and saved her life, and now he's like, well, we're even. So I think there's something going on with him. Also, resurrection, apparently that's possible in this world, but did Nolan do it? And we know that he's not going to help the good guys, so is it on the table or not? We're not sure, but probably will be. But anyhow, my point is that the hallucination of Liam got angry at Jack Barlow's name being mentioned by Violet, but because he got angry about it, I'm like, is he actually part of Violet's hallucination? Because Violet knows that Jack saved her life. And in one of the earlier chapters when Violet and this cohort were stealing the journals, one of the characters mentioned that her specialty is hallucinations because she tricked people to make them think that Violet and some of the other characters were elsewhere by projecting hallucinations there so that they could do a distraction while the actual job went ahead. So I'm like, is this actually Liam or is it a hallucination? Because I think that it's a hallucination that is kind of helping Violet stay alive because that is all the interference they can run while they're getting Xaden away from where he's posted straight to Violet to help her out because she's disconnected from her dragon and she's away from everyone being tortured. Interestingly, while she is being tortured, Varish decides to pull out Dane, and he sends Dane in because, you know, they've got such a history, Violet and Dane. Dane is the one who pulls memories out of people's heads without their consent, which is what he did to Violet, but I don't think he took the memory or information that Violet thinks he took. He took a very select bit of information, so I feel like there is some kind of saving grace for him. I feel like he's going to be redeemed based on how much Violet viscerally hates him and how when he was forced to try and take Violet's memory during their training, he refused to do it and he wouldn't breach her consent. So that makes me think he is a double agent almost, and he's clued in about the rebellion and pretending he doesn't know anything because Varish literally just handed him a dagger that was Violet's so he can verify whether it matched the dagger in her memory. I think he's faked knowing about what Violet was thinking so that he can twist things around, stab Varish and save Violet. And that's how he's going to help get her out. I think he's a really deep sleeper agent because he's working against his father Athos, who is a big ass and who Violet exiled in the first book. So he hasn't been around for this book, but I feel like he's going to come back in at a certain point as being a big bad guy. Also at some point, like I said, I feel like Dane is going to be redeemed, which might happen in this moment, but maybe further on, I'm not sure. But I think with his redemption, Violet is just going to start liking him again, and then he's going to sacrifice himself. And either he will be the character that will die, or it will be Xaden because he's the love interest, and then he'll be resurrected. But it will be either one because they're the two closest to Violet. Unless it's also Rhiannon, because she's been a key factor in this book so far. But I feel like her pivotal moment is coming up, like it's not yet. It's coming, but it's not yet. My other prediction is that for the end of this book, the college isn't going to happen anymore for Violet regarding third year. Something's going to happen that will remove her. And I think something else also will happen with her sister Mira. I think that Mira might end up saving either Dane or Xaden the way that Violet tried to save Liam in the first book. There's going to be some parallel, I'm just not sure what it is yet. And instead of dying like Liam did, they're going to just scrape by and live, or die and be resurrected. There's also something happening with Jack Barlow and potentially the royalty, because there's been two princes mentioned. Arik, who helped them steal the journals, and then Cam, the guy who is currently in training and just got bonded to a dragon because he wants to support the rebellion, and the king won't let him. I think everything is going to explode politically, either by the end of this book or maybe in the sequel. I'm looking forward to all the plot twists coming my way. This is very exciting. I have not expected to be hyped about this book the way that I'm hyped about it right now. Like, I've got so much energy thinking about this, so I'm really looking forward to my commute to work tomorrow to listen to the audiobook. Now I'm on chapter 42, so I've done a bit of a jump since I last spoke to you, but I would like to point out that technically I was right in that Dane has almost switched sides. I don't know to the extent of how much he has switched sides. He just saw Violet's memory of how Liam died and that they were attacked by Wyvern, and he's now shifted. And he ended up stabbing Varish, which surprised me that Varish died because I thought he was going to be the villain for the whole book, but he seemed to have come to a very quick end. So when Dane stabbed him and then Violet finished him off, I was surprised that he was gone from being a villain contender, but I guess we're going to have the leader of the Venin and also potentially Atos, which is Dane's father, being the villains for the rest of the series. I am wondering if the Venin are going to be more of a prevalent threat now that the War College is almost disbanded and all of the riders had a choice between the truth and the rebellion or staying at Valgaith. So that makes me think that Violet's dreams, obviously we know as the reader that they're not just dreams, but she's not really cottoned on to that yet. Something is going on there with the world building and the lore, and she clearly has some power or understanding of things that she hasn't quite twigged yet, because she's like, I can reenact the wards, I can set them again. And that's what chapter 41 or 42 is talking about. And she tried to get the blood of the 6 strongest riders to go into the ward stone and then power these new wards in Iridia, but that's not really happened. Or at least it hasn't triggered yet. Maybe it takes time to trigger, we're not sure yet. Something is going on with her and her power and the Venin, but that I'm sure is going to be developed further. I also should have realized earlier that Xaden is heir to the throne of Iridia. Like, obviously he's helping lead this rebellion, he's very high up on the council. He has ownership of, I think, the mansion or the academy or wherever the rebellion are staying at the moment. He owns it all. So Violet has effectively fallen for the rebellion prince. I believe Xaden and also Violet, but he didn't clear her to come, have arrived at this king's doorstep in order to negotiate for a magical artifact. But things get complicated because Rebecca Yarros was a romance author, so she's always going to write either a romantic tension or a breaking point. Kat, who is Xaden's ex, is the princess to this king that they're negotiating this deal with, and Kat is not very happy. She's very jealous and angry, and her signet, so her power, is to heighten the emotions of the people around her, and she was heightening Violet's emotions to make her feel very second guessing and very jealous, and she's never really felt that about other people before. She's like, I'm pretty self-assured and I know what I want out of life. And the fact that she was feeling those heightened emotions, she was like, what's going on? Initially, I thought it might be her connection to Andana, who is now a teenager. After waking properly from her dreamless sleep, I thought the teenagerness of Andana was influencing Violet, but that's clearly not the case and it was Kat. Maybe it's both, and at the moment it's just Kat heightening everything, but those feelings probably have to come from somewhere if they're only being heightened by Kat and not put into Violet's head. It's also nice to see Violet being called on the fact that she cannot control her power, and she's being told to practice, and now she's got this trial set up by the king. She has to perform and hit this target, which she hasn't been able to do because her lightning strikes randomly. And if she destroys this chest, this priceless artifact, it's also destroying the symbol of the relationship promised between Kat and Xaden. Ever since the writers chose to leave Navarre and join the rebellion, we also haven't had any mention of Imogen. She was mentioned once initially that she hasn't been around, and then Quinn also hasn't been mentioned, but I don't know if that's because they are actually there and they're not the focus, or if something else is going on with them. There is more content too about Violet and her siblings, Mira and Brayden, and Myra punched him in the face when she found out that he was alive. He's a healer, but he heals himself much slower than he heals other people. While I like that they're all reunited again, their interactions don't really do it for me in terms of like carrying the story. I'm like, can we just get past your sibling angst and into the story, please? Like, keep going, please. So hopefully something between all of them, or significant for each of the three, happens at some point, because just seeing them interact with each other is not doing it for me. I want them to go further than that. Do I have many opinions on Violet's mother because she is the one who gave the serum to Violet so that she could hear Turn again? I don't know how I feel about her. I think her name's Jocelyn. She's obviously known this secret for a very long time, and it's really hard to determine where she falls and on which side, but given that she told people what the secret was about the rebellion, then I'm assuming that she's doing some things in Violet's favour, even though Violet hasn't been helped a lot by her in the past. I'm interested to see a bigger political game with her and Atos as well when they eventually come back into the fold, because now they're not in Navarre at Balgaith College anymore, they're in the rebellion, and I feel like my prediction about them being in the war is going to hit home much more easily in the third book. But I think the rebellion's academy mansion place that Xaden owns with the different council members, all of them are acting now as teachers. So it's like they've lifted Balgaith War College and plopped them elsewhere where they're going to now get a real education. So maybe it will be book 3 in that college if they don't get found out, and then after that there's a war, or it will be a mixture of both, I'm not sure. And I also really want Rhiannon to have her moment because she's such a clever cookie, and she's always kind of sidelined because she's a secondary character, and I'm like, I'm pretty confident that you're gonna have a cool pivotal moment, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm 89% into this book, and I feel like the next time I sit down to listen to it is when I'm going to finish it, so I need to sit down now to tell you my last thoughts before I wrap everything up. But I forgot to mention this last time, and that is my thoughts on Kat. So initially I thought because Kat was like a previous scorned lover who had this relationship with Xaden, that she would eventually join the Venin and betray everyone in Iridia for a quest for power, based on something that the Venin leader said to Violet in her dream. How a lot of people pursue power, but for Violet she will pursue for love. I don't know what that means, and I'm assuming that the Venin are going to set Violet up to cause pain and suffering based on her love for Xaden, but we'll find out, I guess. Now, I've forgotten the name of Varish's dragon. So Solace came at everyone in a cave while they are on this trial, and Violet put herself between Kat and the dragon, and then Sloane also revealed that she had a signet that was manifesting because Sloane was freaking out that she drained Violet. So a lot happened in a very short period of time, and listening to these action sequences stresses me out. So sometimes I have to stop and start them because they're just too much. That's a good sign. But what I stuck on was the conversation previously to them going into the cave, which was someone saying how dragons, if they're bonded to someone in your family a few generations ago and then they rebond to someone in that family line, usually 2 signets manifest. Either 1 signet manifests or you go crazy, or 2 signets manifest. And Violet has an epiphany, doesn't say it out loud, because she knows that Xaden bonded his dragon, Segale, and she bonded to his great-grandfather. So she's like, all this time when you have been telling me to ask you questions, you actually haven't been volunteering information to me. And when she was having her internal monologue about going back and forth on Xaden and keeping another big secret from her and saying that she would love him anyway, but how many more of these secrets does she have in her? I was like, yes, fight him, because he should be volunteering information. He shouldn't be hiding it from you. Trust goes both ways, and that is what she's trying to hammer into him. And it's the deal that they have just come to between each other. Volunteering information without Violet having to ask for it first, which was something that was driving me crazy about their relationship. So the fact that it's finally been vocalized is very rewarding to see. And then also he volunteered the truth that he is a mind reader, and even Tan doesn't know, and he's the bonded mate to Xaden's dragon Segale. So a lot of tension just blew up. And mind readers in this world are killed on sight because they are too much of a liability. So Xaden hasn't told anybody except now, obviously, Violet. So now she's going over everything in her head, like, he's reading intentions. Does that mean that he read all the intentions leading up to what our relationship is now? Is what we have real? So she's reinvestigating everything, but since having this reveal and then a conversation with Xaden, and then this promise of sharing everything with each other, I think now they are coming to a territory that is a bit more even. She's had about a week to sit on it and realize that he's protected this information because otherwise he would literally die. And I feel like that understanding is now in place just in time to have things thrown completely topsy-turvy for the conclusion. There's also a lot going on with Violet and the wards. So the journal from Warwick that she has been translating is full of lies. So she did the wards but didn't quite do the wards because the wyvern that got transported over them looked like they died, but then the runes inside them were actually active. So I feel like Kat, with her knowledge of runes, and maybe Rhiannon, because she's quite a clever cookie, are going to have some involvement in the almost finale, maybe cliffhanger of this book. I'm really nervous that it's going to be a massive cliffhanger, and I feel like someone is going to die. And I have said who I think it will be, but then also with the interaction just now between Violet, Brennan and Mira and their mother, when she gave them the additional journal and kind of gave them a little bit more insight into how to make the wards potentially work. I feel like because Violet's mother now has volunteered information, realized that her son is alive, now she's like, all my kids are alive and potentially behind some wards that I can help fix and keep them safe. Maybe she actually will sacrifice herself some way in this battle that is coming to the forefront of all of the major warded zones. Violet has just stood up in the middle of her battle brief class in Iridia. All of her flight crew have followed her out. She's gone and got Xaden, and she's like, all of the wyvern have been gathered at the wards for 3 days. Something is not right. They're going to hit everyone all at the same time, not just in Samara. They're going to hit everything. So it's going to be an all-out intense war. And I feel like with that war, there are going to be casualties. So I am scared. I finished Iron Flame. There are some things I did not see coming and some things I did. I have a lot of thoughts. Okay. When Jack turned venom and killed his dragon, I was like, what the heck is happening right now? He also said the line, I don't know why he thinks you're so special, and he aimed that at Violet, the venom leader. He's got some fixation on Violet, and I think that might be because she is considered powerful because of her lightning, but also because of a reason that was revealed a bit later on in the book, which is related to Andana, because if Andana is 650 years old and she's not one of the 6 dragons that everyone knows about, the dragon species, but she is a 7th dragon that is purple and is kind of reflective in her dragon scales, maybe Violet is going to manifest a really odd second signet, or she's going to be in uncharted territory in terms of signets and dragons. And if she's powerful enough already because she is a scribe who became a writer, so she's knowledgeable, strategic, intelligent, and powerful because she's focused, it's going to make for some delicious plot twists later. I would also like to point out that I was right and Rhiannon got her moment. It was so cool and cinematic. She basically got to fight the venom on Tan's back. Violet was of course worried about her the whole time, but it all worked out. And there was a redeeming moment which I thought was going to be with Mira or Brennan, because I thought something about the siblings was being set up, but it turns out that it was about the mum, and then the siblings had a run on from that. There was a moment that was reminiscent of Liam's death in this book, but in this book Violet got to save Riddick and Sawyer, which was awesome. It was also very cinematic, similar to Rhiannon's moment as well. Like, Violet cut herself out of her harness and jumped across dragons. The whole time I had my heart in my mouth, but ultimately Riddick and Sawyer survived, so I'm very happy about that. Now Sawyer has no leg left because a wyvern ate it, but at least he's alive. All of Fourth Wing are still alive. And then of course, linking back to Myra and Brennan, so Jocelyn, their mother, Violet's mother as well, she sacrificed herself in order to power the Wardstone and forced poor Sloane, who now has trauma because she was forced to murder Jocelyn by proxy, to power this stone. Now the siblings all have a united trauma, and I felt like something was being set up with Jocelyn and the siblings, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. And the way that Jocelyn ended her life when she said something like, this is what we always wanted, I think it was a call out to Violet's father, in that he was aware of the rebellion and she might have been helping him, but he died and then she carried things on in her position of general. So I think she was kind of facilitating things from behind the scenes, and I feel like when we continue in this series, we're going to see little bits and pieces of mechanisms that she might have had a bit of involvement in order to pave the way for what Violet, Mira and Brennan end up doing. I'm looking forward to the unraveling or the unveiling, I guess, of those kinds of politics, because I feel like it's going to be a lot more involved than we know about now. And then I thought something would happen with the Venom, but I thought that because of Violet's dreams and the fixation with the Venom leader on her, I thought potentially she was going to get infected or turn, because we're not really sure what the Venom are, to be honest. I thought they were like power zombies. They had to refuel and recharge their power, but they're at war like the Riders are, and the Riders are pretty ruthless. So I don't know what can be said different about the Venom. I don't know if they've just exhibited particular cruelty, but also so have some of the Riders, to be honest. Like, nobody is all good or all evil, they're just ruthless. So I'm really interested to find out what is happening with all of the Venom, because, you know, Jack seems to be a write-off. He's just gone power hungry and revenge focused, so he's obviously not good. But I think with Xaden turning at the end, he reached for the power and then it overtook him, despite his dragon telling him, don't reach for it, choose me instead. So it seems like there's power in choice, especially near the end when Violet made sure not to give away Coda's secret, the dragon, and asked him about powering the ward stone. And she was informed by that decision by saying, hey Xaden, I need you to choose whether Iridia or Belgaith are powered. We can only do one of the two. And he got to choose. So this book series really focuses on the power of choice. Am I concerned about Xaden turning? Not overly, because I think he's going to have a choice between walking the low road and turning villain, or walking the high road and fighting against whatever Venom power is trying to overcome him. He also asked Jack about a cure, and that makes me think it's more like a zombie virus-esque rather than an actual race of beings, because if you can choose to be that way, surely something's going on there. It was also frustrating to me, and I bet Violet is going to be supremely angry about it, because she said, never read my intentions again, because Xaden can essentially read minds. And in Violet's last moments, when she's trying to power the ward stone, but obviously she's kicked away from doing that and Jocelyn overtakes that mantle instead, when she is doing that, she has the intention of, I'm willing to sacrifice myself for the good of my friends and for this rebellion. And Xaden reads that in her intention through their bond. And then that is what made him jump over the edge and take that power so that he could try and save her. And I'm like, you promised you wouldn't read her intentions again. So when she finds out about that betrayal, is that going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back? There's going to be a blowout of some kind, and it's not going to be pretty, because Violet's like, I can't take this anymore. So is their relationship going to shatter, or is it going to be ongoing through the rest of the series? I don't know if there's going to actually be a breaking point, but maybe it will happen in the next book, which I'm very much looking forward to. But wow, I can't believe that I finished this book now. It has really gripped me. I'd probably give it a 4 or a 4.5 stars. It was definitely motivating and it was very easy to read. It had amazing plot twists in there and also a few things I saw coming, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. It's nice to feel things that are familiar about a story. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about this book, but I hope that you've really enjoyed this vlog. Let me know what some favourite moments were down below. Please discuss this book with me. I had so much fun reading it, but thank you so much for watching this video. I'll come chat to you down below in the comments, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.